I call Scott Simpson.
I move that the question be now put.
I call Dennis O'Rourke.
Choice. Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask the Minister in the chair about how he interprets parts of section 5A, because when I read parts of that section, I get a little bit confused about what actually it's trying to achieve, because we have in section 5A2, and this is on page 43 of the bill, by the way, subsection 2 says any person or body other than the government department may use the 1902 flag except where required by law, to use the New Zealand flag or another specified flag for a particular purpose. And then I go down to under subsection 8, which creates a new section 10, 2 and 3 in the Act, which says, and I quote, "The Minister may, either in any notice issued under subsection 1 or otherwise, set out for general information and guidance rules of conduct and the etiquette to be followed in the flying or other use of any of the following: A, the New Zealand flag, and B, the 1902 flag." But then over the page, subsection 3 of that same section says any rules set out under subsection 2 do not have the force of law. So we have in one section reference to except where required by law, and then further on we have a section which requires, well, rather empowers the Minister to set out rules of conduct and etiquette to be followed in regulations. However, the rules do not have the force of law. So I'm a little bit confused about how we interpret the words except where required by law in 5A2 and the other sections to which I have referred. I actually think that if anybody were to read this legislation, they wouldn't know whether or not really they were actually allowed to use the 1902 flag or not, with or without regulations, and whether those and whether or not they had the force of law for the purposes of section 5A2 or not. So I think there needs to be some answer given to how we should look at all of this, and in particular think about people who would look at this legislation and say, okay, maybe we have a new flag. I hope there isn't, but maybe there is a new flag, one of those gormless symbols that we saw in a list the other day. Maybe there is one of those, but am I still entitled to fly this current flag or not? And if you look at all of that legislation, I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to know what position you were in with regard to that. I really do. I really do, and I think that needs to be answered and the position clarified. And if it can't be clarified, then the bill shouldn't proceed because it's just not clear enough.
I call Mark Mitchell.
Thank you.